Well, we're in the home stretch. I'm glad you all stayed. Just imagine it's June or July, hot. You're the supervisor of a job site, superintendent of a job site, manager or plant manager. Production's not going the way you want it to go. You're behind in production. Employees took off. You got workers' comp problems. Somebody just got hurt on the job site. And the supplier, your employer, wants the job done yesterday. So he's hammering you. You know what I'm talking about. Pressure, pressure, pressure. We need it now. We need it yesterday. We need it before yesterday. Get it done now. And all of a sudden, another conveyor belt breaks down. But you're sharp. You're on it. Just another obstacle to overcome. And just when you got everything running just about the way you think it should run, you hear, "Hey, boss, OSHA's here." Oh, my Lord. You have all these things to deal with, and now you got to deal with OSHA? What goes through your mind? If it's not clean, don't say it out loud. But what goes through your mind when you hear those dreaded words, OSHA's at the front door? How about, we're never going to get this job done? How much is it going to cost me? What does this idiot want from me? Well, how many have gone through that? Well, for many years, I was the idiot at the front door, making your day bright. But it doesn't have to be that way. Of course, you're going to have production problems. Of course, you're going to have personnel problems. But that's even without OSHA. And it's been my experience that whenever OSHA comes knocking, everyone freezes. Everyone wonders, what is OSHA going to do to me? Well, today, I hope that I can give you a few pointers that will make you feel a little bit more relaxed when you get that dreaded, because it doesn't really have to be dreaded. Because if you do your part, it's just another day in the life of busy people. This is how I'm going to do it. These are the 10 steps or 10 keys I'm going to go over on how to survive an OSHA inspection. As we all know, the OSHA inspectors are highly trained, highly educated, extremely handsome, very well dressed, and articulate until I left. Then they lowered the standards. But if you follow these 10 steps that I've compiled over my 20-odd years in OSHA and my over 30 years of safety experience, I think that day that everything goes wrong, you can at least make the OSHA visit go just the way you want to. So let's get started. Number one, greeting the compliance officer. I can't tell you how many times I walked on a construction site or into a plant and showed my credentials, and they said, "Oh, okay, what do you want?" "Just want to do an inspection." "Okay, whatever, go ahead, do it." After I wiped my mouth from the salivation, and I caught myself, I did my job. Would you let your child loose in the candy store? No, neither do you want to let OSHA loose on your plant or on your construction site. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have a policy of how to greet the compliance officer once he shows up on the site. Because when he shows up on the site, he's already engaged in an inspection. You don't want a compliance officer walking through your site the same way you don't want a police officer walking through your house. Regardless of whether or not there's anything wrong with it, it's just not a smart thing to do. And you know what? A compliance officer will appreciate having someone there to greet him, to guide him to a location to where he can start his inspection by talking to the top man on the job site. Have a plan. And when you have that plan, you want to include the GC in that plan. Because if you're a subcontractor and the GC doesn't have any idea of how to deal with compliance officers, the compliance officer comes to the site and the GC says, "Yeah, go ahead over there. Sam's Plumbing is right over there." And then while you're in the middle of doing something you shouldn't be doing, the OSHA guy is there, and you hear this roll of film go zip, 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 zip. And every zip could be a potential citation. So you want to talk to the general contractor, get on the same page. How are we going to treat this compliance officer? And by no means does that mean to treat him with disrespect. You have a location where you're going to place that compliance officer to someone who has the knowledge to deal with safety and health officers. Compliance officer can arrive on the site. And that authority should be bestowed to the lowest ranking individual on that site and the newest individual on your site. Just as you take them through an orientation on how to do the job safely, the orientation should include how to identify, stop, and direct the movements of a compliance officer. It will save you a lot of headache. Number 2, develop a plan of protection. All that is a safety and health program. And a lot of companies I've talked to, they're either in one or two camps. A, we ain't got no safety program. That's the easy one, all right? Or 2, they have to go to the sacred vault. They open it up, trumpets are playing, lights are shining, and they lay the sacred scrolls in front of the compliance officer for his feasting. The scrolls have never been touched by human hands until now. Big mistake. Develop a plan of protection, and all of a plan of protection is the way that you're going to protect your employees from the hazards associated from doing their job. In other words, how are you going to keep your people from getting hurt? Just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. How are you going to protect your people from getting hurt? And we know the 3 ways we can do that: engineering, administrative, or PPE. Keep it simple, because that voluminous document, you ain't going to read it, your superintendents ain't going to read it, and your employees probably can't even find it. But the compliance officer is going to sit down, and he's going to feast. And every morsel he bites, just, let's move on. Not good. TDs is about training and documentation. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. If you don't believe that, have this happen to you. I've testified in many court hearings, and the ones where the employers are so wound up to take OSHA to court, it's one particular, I won't mention their name, they were wound up. I got to the court, they wouldn't even look at me. Snarling, so we're going to get those guys. I was sipping on my tea. Maybe I had a little Chablis before I came. Because I knew one thing. They talked a lot of talk, but nothing was documented. You can do a lot of talking in court, but the judges love to see documentation. Of course, it didn't work out very well for them, but you have to document. And it doesn't have to be a voluminous. You don't have to write Gone with the Wind. Just say what you did, when you did it, why you did it, and who you did it to. That's it. Check, check, check. In my 20-some-odd years with OSHA, it's been my experience that the bulk of citations are written for one of 2 reasons. They're written because of what management said, or what management did or failed to do, or what management said or failed to say. And what does he mean by that? How many people are contractors, construction out here? Any construction people? Oh, not many. So the rest of you are manufacturing, right? You have a machine that goes down, has all kind of power sources, and you have a mechanic to fix it. What program are you going to look for? Lockout, tagout. Exactly. Compliance officer comes up there, and you have an employee oiling that machine while it's continuing to move. Compliance officer says, why don't you have the machine locked out, tagout? What are you going to say? You're going to get cited for what you say, or what you fail to say, what you do, what you fail to do. We all know that routine maintenance can be done without lockout, tagout. But if you didn't know that, you're going to come up and say, well, we should have had it locked out. And downhill from there, it's going to go. Downhill from there, it's going to go. You have to know the rules in order to play the game. And really, it's not a game. You have to know the rules to protect your employees. And when you know the rules, you talk to your employees, document, document, document. You can be sure the compliance officer will do that. 29 CFR 192621B2, you should all have that memorized if you're construction. That's a requirement in construction. Simple. You're going to have to train your employees to recognize the hazards associated with the work that they do. If you fail to do that, that's the I got bit by an alligator citation. That's the I ran into a wasp nest citation. That's the I was in a porta-john and a black widow spider bit me on my hand. Okay. Know your CFRs, the 1910 and 1926, just like the lockout tagout. If you don't know the rules, how are you going to intelligently talk to a compliance officer who may or may not be correct in his assumption that you're doing something wrong if you don't even know what the baseline requirement is? All you're going to do is step back and be a spectator in a sport that requires no spectators. You must get, read, understand, and implement the standards, whether it's 1926 construction standards or 1910 general energy standards. If you cannot or do not have the time to read and understand the standards, hire a consultant that knows the standards and let him read and understand them. You may even want to hire a consultant that does presentations at, let's say, Safety Day. Let's move on. You have rights. This goes with my last slide. You have rights, but if you don't know your rights, you don't have any rights. A compliance officer comes to your site. He walks on your site. You got a ton of things to do. You have critical operations going on. You cannot stop. It's critical that your operations go on. The inspector comes and says, "Sir, Tom, I'm here to do an inspection. I'd like to start now." Tom, what are you going to say?
Come on in.
Come on in. And you got critical operations that simply cannot be stopped. Millions of dollars are at stake, Tom. Want to reconsider? Yeah, he smiled. That's what the smile we get from all y'all. No, Tom, that's a good thing. If you want to have him come in, you have a good organization where you have critical operations going on, but you still can accommodate compliance officers. You have rights. There's only two ways a compliance officer can get on your site. Two ways. Anybody know what the two are? One, what? Lunch. Invite. You have to invite him on because the Fourth Amendment prevents unwarranted searches and seizures. If you choose not to let a compliance officer on your site, you simply say, "I cannot let you on my site." And he's going to say, you are preventing me from doing that inspection. I'm going to consider that a refusal of entry. Well, in fact, you are refusing entry. Now, I don't recommend that you do this. However, I remember in '74, working with my father and his 8 brothers. I hate all of them, but that's another story. They're masons. We were pouring a foundation for an oil manufacturing plant in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. It was in the middle of the summer. There were 25 concrete trucks lined up, and my father was the concrete superintendent. And guess who walks on the site? An OSHA compliance officer, and he wants to stop my father to talk about hard hats. Well, my father said some things that I can't repeat right now, and kicked a little dirt on the guy's shoes and said, "I don't care what you want to do. I got trucks out there to be poured." And he went on and poured them. My father could not stand an OSHA compliance officer. Said if any of his kids became a compliance officer, he'd disown them. I'm still trying to work that out with my father. Thanksgivings are rough, but we're dealing with it. You have rights. The second way is with a warrant. Now, again, I don't advocate that, but there are certain times when you cannot accommodate a compliance officer. There's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, the compliance officer is not going to come back and say, "Because you told me I couldn't do an inspection, I'm going to beat you up." If he says that, please record it. Please write it down. And then immediately after that, stop the inspection again and call the area office. It is your right to refuse an inspection. 6, be a copycat. What do I mean by that? When a compliance officer comes to your site, he's going to be equipped with a lot of equipment. If it's a safety, he's going to have a camera, a notebook, a pen, a recording device, maybe a VCR, a video recorder. He's going to record what he says, what he does, and what he measures. During an inspection, it is not a spectator sport on your part. So if a compliance officer comes on site with a tape measure, what are you going to have? If he comes with a camera, what are you going to have? If he pulls out a notebook, what are you going to pull out? A pen? A notebook. If he pulls out a pen, what are you going to pull out? That's right. If he starts moonwalking, what are you going to do? Moonwalk, that's right. You are to be a copycat because compliance officers, except for when I was there, are not perfect. They measure your scaffold, and it's 9 feet, 11 and 15/16 inches high. But he says it's 10 feet, 1 inch. If you know the scaffolding standard, you know that above 10 feet, you must have guardrails in your scaffold. But less than 10 feet, you just have to have it fully planked. But if you didn't know that rule, you're going to go, well, I guess so. You're not going to measure, oh, well, I guess you got that. No. If he measures it, you measure it. Verify him. Document what you measured. Document what he measured. If he measured right, well, then you better get a competent person to fix that scaffold pretty quick. But if you failed to measure it correctly, that's why you document. And here's another thing you want to do. If you document a discrepancy against the compliance officer, you document it, but more importantly, you request that compliance officer document what your discrepancy was. If you said it's 9.5 feet, he says it's 10 feet, you say, I'd like you to put in there that I disagree, and his report, because whose report is the official report? His is the official report, but it's your construction site. Document, document, document. Be a copycat. Whatever he does, you do. But I like that song, whatever you can do, I can do better. We'll do a better job than compliance officer. Because when a compliance officer comes on the site, who's the expert? You are the compliance officer. You are. When I was working with OSHA, I might be looking at a Korean ship doing maritime operations or longshore operations on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm looking at a plant that manufactures Coca-Cola. On Wednesday, I'm out in the agricultural field. On Wednesday, I'm doing high-power power lines. I'm no expert in any one thing. I know the law, but I'm not an expert in your field. You have to exert your authority and make sure that the compliance officer is seeing what he thinks he sees, is talking about what he thinks he's talking about, and documenting what he thinks he's documenting. That's your responsibility. If you don't do that, you're becoming a spectator. Argue with referees, not co-shows. This is one thing I tell you, I can't tell you enough. Do not spend your time or waste your time arguing with a compliance officer. Just like you don't want anybody in your face, they certainly don't want anybody in their face. And I'll tell you something else. We have a lot of new compliance officers in our office. They're very good, they're smart, but they're new. Very few have ever worked in the field. You are just as intimidating to them as you think they are to you. And if you disrespect or mistreat a compliance officer, you are adding to the growth of that compliance officer. If he continues to be treated like that in 5 or 10 or 15 years, when he is very experienced, how do you think he's going to treat contractors? The same way he was treated by you all. Man, when a compliance officer comes on site, offer him some donuts, some coffee, candy. Just kidding. Be respectful. Don't argue with him. However, you can disagree. And how do you disagree? I disagree with that measurement. You measured such and such. I measured such and such. Would you please record that in your file? And by the way, I'm recording in my official file that I'm recording for my company. Compliance officers will record that. They don't get paid by the number of citations they issue. They get graded on how well they do an inspection, which includes how well they treat you. Eight, you're never off the record. I did an inspection about 4 years ago at a construction site. was very, 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 very hot. Actually, we got a complaint about drinking water. We went out there and got there about 8 o'clock. And we just observed. Didn't go on the site, just observed. Looking around, looking around. Finally, I decided, I'm going to go on the site and open an inspection. I went on the site and I opened an inspection. I said, how you doing, sir? He said, how you doing, sir? I said, fine, I'm here with OSHA. Okay, after I brought him to and stood him up again, dusted him off, I said, I'm here to do an inspection, a complaint inspection. He says, well, you're welcome on the site. I said, by the way, pretty hot today, isn't it? Yes, sir, it's really, really hot today. Man, how hot do you think it is? It's really hot. It's got to be at least 100 degrees. Wow, yeah. What time did you start work this morning? We were here right at 7 o'clock. Really? I see you have crews there. Yeah, have they been there all day? Yeah, all day. I don't let them move from their crew. They got work to do. I'm a hard taskmaster, but we pay them well. Very good. How many inspections have you done in the entire site? Well, I haven't had time to get around the entire site yet, but I'm getting there. So they have any breaks today? Nope. Got a lot of work to do. And I'm looking around as he's talking to me. What do you think I'm looking for? A water cooler. Something simple as a water cooler. Never saw one. After I asked him several questions, I remember I told you, the compliance officer documents everything. I documented what? What did I ask him? What time he got there? How hot do you think it is? From his own lips, got to be at least 100 degrees. All right? So he knows it's hot. How long you guys been working? Since 7 o'clock this morning. I got to keep him on a tight schedule. So I know he didn't have any breaks. I'm looking around for water. In Florida, you think heat stress is a big problem? Heat stroke may be a big problem? Did you think I just documented this guy didn't observe any of the rules? Then I asked him, what do you do about heat stress? What? Heat stress. They can take a break. Where are they going to take a break? I don't know, they can sit down right there. I don't care where they take a break. That's an attitude of nonchalance. I don't care. A compliance officer will ask you questions. He's not going to drill you. What time did you get here? I want the facts. No, it's going to be out of come. How you doing today? You know, I like your shoes. How long you been here today? What time did you get here? Oh, really? What about that? And you know, people should like to talk when you ask them questions. The compliance officer is listening. There's never an off-the-record conversation. And I've had people even admit to me, you know, I should have had a cooler out here Monday. It's Friday now. I had a cooler out here all week. I mean, it's as simple as that. Nothing you say is off the record. Even if you say, this is off the record, you're never off the record. Do the right thing. 9, signing statements. Now, I know we have Joan over there, and she's going to probably say, Kevin, no, don't tell him that. No, I told him. How many people if a compliance officer is on site, and he's asking you questions, and he's writing? Let me ask you a question. Is he writing to document what a swell guy you are? What a wonderful human being you are. He's very well dressed. His hard hat is very shiny. Or he didn't do this, he admitted to this, he didn't do that, he didn't do this. Which of the two you think he's doing? He's not there to pat you on the back. He's there to enforce the OSHA standards. His job is to identify the standards that you're violating, document all the prima facie evidence that you need to document a standard in his file, and then when he gets to his office, he's going to cite you for it. Before he does that, he's going to accumulate or write down everything you said. And he says, by the way, Jeff, you want to just read that? You read it. Is it okay? No, it's a couple of things. Go ahead and change it. Okay. Would you sign your changes? Okay. Everything in that document proves you violated the standard, and you just signed it. I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do, but in my 20-some-odd years, I've never seen a document signed on site that proved you didn't do something. Why would a compliance officer waste their time? If you want to provide a statement, write your own statement. You can read the compliance officer's statement, but if you initial it, you sign it, you agree to it. You agree to it. Beware of signing statements prepared by a compliance officer. And lastly, in conclusion, it's not a test, it's an examination. But there's good news. When a compliance officer is out at the site, it's not a test, but it is an examination of you. But the great news is it's an open book test. It's an open book test. It's open to your procedures. If a compliance officer asks you, what do you do in case of emergencies? You don't go, well, I see now. I think I just run out to my truck and head on out to the gate there. What does your procedure say? It's an open book test. You know, sir, I'll get right back to you on that. Let me refer to our policy on that. What about this over here? What are you going to do in case of that? If you don't know, you don't want to shoot from the hip. Give me 1 second, I'll get that answer to you. It's not a time test, but it is a test. If you shoot from the hip, it's going to come right back and bite you in the butt. Refer to your company policy, refer to the standard, refer to any documentation that you have that will get you the answer you need. And lastly, my motto is, safety may not be most important, but it's always important. It's always important. You are all here to do the right thing by your employees. No one here will intentionally go out and hurt your employees, but employees get hurt. That's just the nature of the beast. But our job is to minimize the probability and severity of anyone getting hurt on our site, on our watch, because we've prepared by doing the right thing. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm sure you heard that. And I got to tell you, as a compliance officer, it doesn't take more than 2 minutes to figure out if you're on the mark or if you're way off. If you're on the mark, it'll be one of these. Thank you very much, sir. I enjoyed your site, and I'm gone. If you're off the mark, thank you very much, sir. I'm going to be at the hotel down the road. How long y'all going to be here? I'm going to be here a week after y'all gone. You know, that's the way it is. I appreciate you here. I hope these tips will be helpful to you. Right now, just open up for any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, one thing would be that anytime they request something, to have them send it in writing.
Okay, what was your name? Justin says anytime OSHA requests anything, have them make the request in writing. Very good, very good. Anything else? Anything I covered? Yes, ma'am.
So there's not the OSHA website, or maybe I'm thinking of another one, has sort of a step-by-step assistant to help you create a safety manual if you don't already have one.
John, is that on the OSHA website or the USF website? She asked if the OSHA website has a step-by-step how to create a safety program. I know it's on USF safety site, but it's not on, I don't think it's on OSHA, no.
Yeah.
Examples, they're scattered, easier thing to do than
Yeah.
USF website, safetyflorida.com.
Yeah, they have a safety,
Safetyflorida.com, and they have a safety writer.
right.
And then asks questions, but it is generic. Just don't leave a generic plan there. Make sure you make it
Yeah.
work.
And Joe makes a good point. And some of you go out and buy these, pay $200, $300 for these holy relics, safety programs. That means they glow in the dark and everything. And all you do is put your company name on the top of it, and you put it away in the sacred vault. It's going to come back and bite you. If you have it, read it, implement it, tailor it. If you only need a Volkswagen to get from point A to point B, don't order a Mercedes. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Shouldn't you ask for identification?
You should, the question was, shouldn't you ask for identification? You should always ask for identification. And that does not mean a business card. You want to see their credentials. And I was a victim of this. A company asked for my credentials, and I was in Sanford, and my credentials were sitting in Brandon on the top of my dresser. And I was not happy that he asked me for my credentials. But I tucked my tail between my legs and went on back and got him and taught me a lesson, you know, don't come out here unprepared. Any other question? I'll take one more. Yes, sir. That's a good point. For your safety programs, some of the good insurance companies will help you develop a safety program. And I say the good ones. Now, again, you get an insurance company that downloads your cabinet manufacturing plant, he downloads one for logging. You know, that's not going to be good. You have to take part in your program. This is your company, your program. It's just important to have a good safety and health program as it is to make what you make or produce what you produce. People getting hurt will drain your company faster than anything else. Not only will they be hurt and your employees are disgruntled and low morale, but your reputation is going to go right down the tubes. Okay, if there's no more questions, I thank you very much. Y'all can all get on I-4 and head on back. Thank you.